Alright, so this episode of My Hero Academia, Relief for Licensed Trainees, to me was a very interesting one. And I say that simply because of just how many varying topics it happened to be comprised of. And so it felt like we were just jumping from focus to focus. Now, mind you, it's not as if I have any overwhelming quarrels with any of these individual focuses, it's just the fact that the transition from one to the next was a bit jarring at times. However, the beginning of this episode was one that I especially enjoyed as it wrapped up the events that took place in the previous episode. And if you know anything about the content that I bring forth to this channel, such as the Quirk Evolution series, then you know that the furtherance of quirks and the understanding of quirks and hero society in general is something that I am especially passionate about. And so to get the quirk singularity theory going on in the story right now just got me especially hype and excited for more. Because listen, the sheer notion that quirks would at large eventually reach a biological apex to the point of societal instability and or collapse goes so hard and is so crazy, and I just lose my mind with this kind of stuff. And so seeing these kids utilize their quirks, even despite them being in like kindergarten or whatever, they quite obviously have some really cool quirks that I actually find to be more fascinating and interesting than some of the pro heroes that we have seen in the story thus far, and even some of our kids over here at UA. And they're presented in a way in which we can quite easily imagine the tree of genetics that may have led to this point. And from a storytelling sense, I love that because it certainly serves to convey such intended sentiments in a far more feasible way. But yo, these are some badass little kids, man. Like, because their quirks are so fascinating and so cool and overwhelming, they feel like they're the shit. And because society is going to shit, and they are perceptive to that as children growing up in this state of newfound instability, they can't help but look down on the pre-established. And so they think their teachers are whack, they think their parents are whack, and they think that heroes just aren't doing their job right, so they're ready to handle it. But with this episode are proven wrong by means of spectacle, as our remedial students opt to show them the depths of their quirk training in a way that doesn't outright belittle them. But since we're talking about the quirks of the remedial students, let us talk about the official reveal of Kami's quirk, Glamour. Now, it's not too complicated, it's an illusionary-based airborne quirk. However, Present Mike makes a point to say something here that I had to look back on for a moment. He says that the abuse of this quirk is prohibited. Now, I don't know what he's attempting to establish here by saying that, simply because all quirks are kind of prohibited in terms of their use. I mean, we've kind of already established at this point in the story that outside of hero work, quirks are kind of not allowed to be used. I mean, just imagine if someone like Momo were to use their quirk without restraint. She could single-handedly cause an economic collapse. So yeah, saying that the abuse of her quirk is prohibited kind of just seemed very redundant to me, but whatever. Another moment of this episode that stuck out to me was by means of Bakugo, because we love to see character development. In the last episode, the anime happened to skip a manga moment between Bakugo and Shoto that was low-key kinda major in the understanding of Bakugo's mental process when it comes to empathy, and actually demonstrated just how far he's come as a character. But thankfully with this episode, this moment wasn't something that they could easily just overlook or breeze past. Having Bakugo now realize that by looking down on others in the past, he subsequently blinded himself to his own weaknesses is undoubtedly a substantial bit of progression for his character, and certainly aids in his overall likability, so I was really happy to see this, and the moment was done really well. But yeah, they managed to settle down Bebe's kids, and with that are able to pass this point of their remedial lessons. And soon after that, we come to find out that because of the proceedings of the League of Villains during the provisional license exam, going forwards, UA and Shiketsu High will have a closer relationship with one another, in which they will be exchanging information on a more regular and intricate basis. Which should mean we can expect more interactions between the two schools to come, and potentially even more characters and quirks to go crazy for, so I am completely down. But what I am not down for is for giving this man Endeavor. Like, do not touch me, bro. Like, stay in your lane. I understand you're trying to be a good man or whatever now that you have to be the symbol of peace and step up to the plate, and you can't just hide in All Might's shadow going crazy and abusing your kids. But you need to calm it down, my nigga. Like, just because you got these dreamy eyes all of a sudden and you smiling doesn't mean we about to accept you all willy-nilly. Like, just stay over there and calm yourself. And I appreciate that Shoto's not really having any of this, because your words are one thing, but your actions are another. Show me through your actions, and even then, that doesn't mean I'm gonna forgive you. But at the very least, just come correct. But after that, we start bouncing from topic to topic, because firstly, we have the funeral of Sir Night-Eye, which is very brief, very quick. Then we have a quick status update on Eri and her current predicament in the hospital. Then we get to what is just literally just normal schoolwork, like they're just here solving math equations. And I don't know, man, this guy Deku would really stress me out if I had to sit next to him. This man is really just like pulling out strands of his hair and shaking, trying to figure out a math problem. Like, bro, it is really not that serious. You need to just calm down, man, calm down. But beyond that, we have this weird ass nigga Aoyama and his cheese. Mans is really out here just putting food in people's mouths mid-sentence, and he's not even a part of the scene. And the rest of this episode is really just what happens when you let background characters pull up. And let me tell you, this man is a creep. When he pulled up to Deku's balcony, you could see the fear on Deku's face. Like, what would you do if you were in that predicament? I would probably have to square up. And now, before watching this episode, I was sort of expecting this scene to be kind of like a cliffhanger. Because to give some context to my anime onlys, when this first went down in the manga, the chapter concluded with Yuga just peering in all creepy and such, and so the UA traitor theories were just popping off like crazy. So I was kind of surprised they didn't extend it for the sake of then clearing it up in the next episode. But I'm glad that they didn't, just because of how little payoff there is to be had with that sort of thing as a viewer. And after that, we have a little bit more jumping around in the form of the lurkers being revealed to us as a hero group. And because of that, Mina starts talking about the potential of forming a hero group with some of her classmates, which was pretty cool. But after that, we have some more special move training, and I am so happy to see Kirishima already getting in there, ready to improve his unbreakable form. And right off the bat, he is asking some of the strongest characters in class 1A in terms of brute force to help him out and use him as a punching bag. The fact that he is confident enough to take on direct hits from Bakugo, Sato, and Deku says a lot, and it says a lot about how far he wants to progress. And I always love to see that, because this is my boy and I need him to put in that work. And speaking of putting in that work, Bakugo asks Deku if he's made any progression, if he's gotten any stronger. And Deku admits that he hasn't, which seems to be a bit disappointing for Bakugo. But I feel like in his own way, he's here encouraging Deku to get stronger and to put in that work. So it's a really interesting dynamic that they seem to have between them now. Bakugo is that sort of character that you can't exactly expect to be overly friendly, but he certainly fulfills that sort of Vegeta role where it's a strong rivalry between him and Deku. And because he's more self-aware and isn't looking down on others as much as he used to, he is actually treating it like a proper rivalry, and so we can expect to see some more in that regard in what I can only imagine will be really interesting ways. But to pretty much end this episode off, we have some more Yuga stuff, and oh my god, this guy is so like unsettling. He's just kind of creepy in what he does. I mean, he literally penetrates this rock in front of Deku and tells him to watch, and it's just very, very off-putting and strange. When he writes a little insignia over it, it's just, oh my gosh, this guy is just too much. But despite his social awareness, he is really not a bad guy. He feels like he can connect to Deku simply because he is another person who doesn't have full control over their quirk, and his body isn't innately suited for its power, and so he has had to offset that by means of technology and gadgets in the past, since he was a child actually. And so he feels like he has a connection with Deku, and it's sweet. It's actually pretty sweet to to have him open up and talk to Deku, because he doesn't really talk to many of our characters in general. But finally, after being in the same class for several months and many near-death experiences on top of that, these two have officially become friends, and that is the episode. Like I said, this episode was a whole lot of a whole lot, but in the end, I can only hope that it'll be worth it, because we will be able to get into more fascinating things all the sooner. So I don't mind too much. But this is the part of the video where I ask you all to tell me what you thought about the episode. What'd you think about Endeavor trying to be cute, and how did you feel about Naval Boy feeding Deku cheese and everything in between? Be sure to let us know in the comments, and if you're looking for some of the best My Hero Academia content on the platform, stick around because Plot Armor has you covered. I am of course Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.